It's a week 2 crossover episode of the Locked On Texans podcast and Locked On Bucs matchups we need to kind of be scared about. And can tall balls continue to create pressure and chaos for the Houston Texans offense, or can Houston get it under control and get a dub in the win column?
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Texan Nation, Bucs Nation, welcome to this Thursday crossover episode of the Locked On Texans and Locked On Bucs podcast, your team every day. I'm your Texans Credential Media member, John Hickman. On the opposite side, my man, James. Bucs, Texans?
Yeah, it feels like we just did this not too long ago, and it was a game that Bucs fans want to forget because of the absolute implosion that happened thanks to a really bad defense and a really great second half from CJ Stroud. But it's going to be an entertaining one for non-Texans and Bucs fans since they are the first half of a Monday night doubleheader.
Yeah, man, this is a game that a lot of Texan fans are really holding on to, and hopefully CJ Stroud and the offense can get some type of rhythm going to remind them of what was, what could be, and hopefully what will be. Today's episode is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Pick app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. You are the guest on the Locked On Texans podcast. This is a crossover episode, of course, but I want to ask you, what is the biggest storyline, or what are the biggest storylines for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think it's a lot of, are they better than what we saw in week 1? Baker Mayfield struggled a lot trying to find a rhythm. He looked rusty. He looked a little shaky. You had an offensive line that we went into that game thinking, okay, Charlie Heck is going to start for Tristan Wirfs at left tackle as Wirfs continues to try to come back from that knee surgery. And then right before kickoff, we find out, no, they're going to move second-year center Graham Barton out to the left tackle position. They're going to move left guard Ben Bredesen over to center. And then they elevate practice squad guard Michael Jordan to be the starting guard. So it was like this huge shuffle over on the left side of the line. And, you feel like that played into it. Baker not taking preseason snaps played into it. Defensively, they looked a little shaky at times. Servassier Dennis was supposed to come in and really help that linebacking crew. Chase McLaughlin, who never misses, missed an extra point and a field goal. So right. The big story is this Bucs team better than what we saw in week 1, or is this a sign of things to come throughout the season?
For the Houston Texans, we can kind of look at the same thing. I'm going to mirror that a little bit because Houston didn't score a touchdown week 1, right? Extremely disappointing, so much so fans this week have been extremely critical of their quarterback and CJ Stroud, right? And so now I look at a team that, we have a quarterback come out and say we was lollygagging throughout practice the week prior to the game, week 1 of the season, where you have a whole new offensive coordinator. That's demoralizing in a lot of ways. And so for week 2, will this be the identity that we are going to see and maybe should expect for the entire year? Or was it a fluke? Was it a moment where they kind of let the expectations get to them and they didn't rise to those expectations? And will they just be a better overall team offensively? Defense, they held the Rams to 14 points. And I believe that they will give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers some issues Monday night at home, right? And Houston is a different team at home. Offensively, they can't go out there and leave their defense hanging by not scoring points. And kind of in bunches. When you only score 9 points and they all come in the first half and you didn't put up no touchdowns, you kind of got to come out that next game and say, you know what, guys, our bad. We're going to score 3 touchdowns. We're going to make sure that we give you everything that you need to feel comfortable, maybe throw some different looks out there to leave the game with a win.
Yeah, well, and Houston and Tampa kind of mirror each other, right? These are two teams that there were high expectations throughout the offseason, and neither offense is taking the field that was expected. With the Bucs, they expected to have Tristan Wirfs at left tackle. They expected to add Emeka Egbuka to a wide receiver core that had Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan, and all of a sudden those guys are out. In Houston, they expected to have Joe Mixon as the running back, and that's not who they're getting. They expected to have Christian Kirk out there. So these are two offenses that a lot of people had a lot of faith and a lot of belief in that are missing really crucial key components when it comes to their ability to put up points. So I think it's going to be an interesting game for sure, but I'm almost disappointed that this isn't in week 12 instead of in week 2 when both of these teams are going to be at more of a full strength and we get a true idea as to what the identities of these two teams are when they face each other. I mean, the Bucs beat Houston in their very first meeting ever and haven't won since. Houston's won 5 in a row. They've never lost to Tampa in Houston. So, if that's the storyline, if that's the matchup with two brilliant defensive-minded head coaches, I want them at full strength. I want these teams to have every weapon that they can in order to really test who is the superior team.
Now, that is the offensive problems that both teams are experiencing, and I can't talk enough about how much I love Tristan Wirfs as a tackle in the NFL. I mean, he's a young dog. We talked about it a little bit pre-show. You said he's fun to be around, extremely athletic, but he's a guy that I really enjoy. Kind of hate that he's not out there, but for this game, not having him out there is going to play into the favor of the Houston Texans defense. Now, briefly, what about the Bucs defense? Should Texan fans know about? You guys allowed nearly 300 yards to Michael Penix. Is that something that the back end of the defense may be a worry or concern for you guys? Give us some more insight on that.
Well, I think the issues that Houston has up front are definitely worse than the issues that Tampa has up front. So one of the things that I was really impressed with about Michael Penix was how quickly he got rid of the football. The pass rush was actually pretty solid for the Bucs. Hassan Reddick came away with a sack. Yaya Diaby had a sack that was negated by a defensive holding penalty that had absolutely nothing to do with that play. So that pass rush was getting there. It was just Penix was so quick at getting the ball out of his hand. And that's going to be a big thing for Stroud is get the ball out before Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey, who were dominant against Atlanta, before they can start to wreak havoc on that line. But, you take a look at the secondary and they did a good job. Zion McCollum, who just got paid, he had a really good game. Jamel Dean, he had a couple of really nice plays, but he had a couple of really dumb penalties. And then that back end, Antoine Winfield Jr. still looks like Antoine Winfield Jr. A lot of the issues in the passing game you had on the opening drive, Bijan Robinson with a 50-yard touchdown catch that was all him. It was just a quick little dump off behind the line of scrimmage. Servassier Dennis took a terrible angle, and then nobody was going to catch Bijan from there. And then you had a couple of blown coverages, a couple of miscommunications. That's something I expect to tighten up quite a bit in this game. And you will have, as far as I know, you will have the debut of their second-round pick, Benjamin Morrison, there available to join the secondary as well.
We're going to talk about some more key matchups for this game. Again, Houston trying to avoid going down 0-2. Tampa trying to go up 2-0 on the season. I want to give you guys some credit, something the Houston Texans failed to do well in their first game. Only 5 penalties compared to Houston's 11. And that forced Houston to be in consistent second and long situations, third and long situations, something that plagued Houston in 2024, that kicked off to 2025 with the same stench. Hopefully that can, they work on being better at that. And in game 2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we see a different version of H-Town. But we got a lot of big things to talk about. We got more Locked On crossover show today, so don't go nowhere. Bucs fans, Texas fans, we got action. However, this is a perfect opportunity to dive into what matters the most. And for some of y'all that's getting a new car, you got to get ready. Mazda craft cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety picks, awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, Athlete sweats all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every vehicle model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every details because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And also, Bucks and Texas fans, awesome opportunity here to let you guys know that when it's time to fuel up and turn it up, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion is there for you. The grape, ginger, and lime flavor shots bring the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost, perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through the day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without leaving the green. What's the wildest shot you ever made? Was it a total fluke or was it a well-calculated miracle? And when you had that well-calculated miracle, was it a transfusion close by? Hopefully it was. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse to go without leaving the course or chasing down the cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters Tournament. Offer ends October 25th. Again, offer ends October 25th. Welcome back, Texans and Buck fans. James, key matchups. Tampa Bay, what do y'all do well that Houston needs to be scared about?
I think the key matchups in this one, I'll start on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be Emeka Egbuka versus Jalen Petrie. So Petrie lined up as the slot corner on 34 of 55 of his defensive snaps on Sunday against the Rams. Puka was in the slot for 19 snaps, absolutely cooked him. You know who's going to be in the slot for most of this game? It's Emeka Egbuka. This is what I was talking about all offseason on Locked On Bucs with Egbuka taking those Chris Godwin snaps early in the season. He lined up in the slot on 24 of his 54 snaps against the Falcons. 3 of his 4 receptions came out of the slot position. So now in a game where Baker is going to have to get rid of the ball quick in order to avoid that Texans pass rush, he has his favorite new target lining up against the most susceptible member of the Houston secondary. After just 5 targets last week against Atlanta, I expect that number to double this week against Houston. Emeka is going to be hyper targeted out of the slot in a matchup that is very winnable for him.
That is a matchup that I am scared for the Houston Texans. I'm going to tell you why. So going into the Rams game, Bucs listeners and viewers, fans out there, I highlighted in a deep dive episode, Jalen Petrie, as much as they like him and love him here in Houston, he represents the whole swarm mentality. That was a weakness of his, and that cost Houston games in 2024 because of that matchup, and that's a weakness of the defense. And I urged from my chair, hopefully the Houston Texans find a different matchup when guys are shifted into the slot, which is where the issues really rose because they would start outside, but then they would take off the play from the slot position, and it hurt Houston. And then I see in the following week, we got to go up against Emeka Egbuka, who is an extremely young, talented, phenomenal route runner who can do a lot from the slot. Jalen Petrie in that matchup is going to be extremely scary. Hopefully Derek Stingley is healthier than how he ended the game against the Rams, because if they don't find a way to eliminate the slot effect that teams have on Houston to take away a lot of that outside leverage, Houston will have a long day. Now, for the Houston Texans, no Tristan Wirfs. You know what that means. It's going to be a long day for the Bucs offensive line. Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter. And let me say this, I think Danielle Hunter may be coming into this game a little bit angry because of how quiet he was in week 1. Will Anderson got busy, Danielle Hunter not so much. And so when I look at the difference between Tampa going up against Atlanta and Tampa going up against Houston, for me, it's all up front. I know that they did a very good job to try to revamp that D-line up there over in Atlanta, but it ain't Will Anderson. It ain't Daniil Hunter. It's not the guys in the middle, and it's not a DeMeco Ryans defense that will send pressure with guys like Azeez Al-Shire, with guys like Henry To'oTo'o, Christian Harris whenever he's fully back into the mix. That front seven will cause Tampa a lot of issues. Baker can break out of the pocket and make some plays with his legs, but doing that against two amazing edge defenders that understand the importance of containing the edge, I think it's going to make for a long day for that offense, specifically the offensive line.
Yeah, I'm certainly glad that the reshuffled offensive line isn't going up against this Houston defense in week one. Atlanta was a nice warm-up. They brought the pressure, especially in that 2-minute drill when Baker was able to orchestrate a game-winning drive and find Egbuka for the winning touchdown. But, getting one game under their belt, getting their legs under them against Atlanta is going to help, but it's not going to help a lot because this Houston defense is absolutely terrifying when you don't have arguably the best left tackle in the NFL lining up to help protect Baker. You have two guys playing positions that they can play. Graham Barton was a left tackle at Duke. Ben Bredesen played center for the Giants at times, but they're not as good at those positions as they are, at their natural positions of center and left guard. It's kind of the same thing for the Bucs defense though, right? Because this is already a questionable Houston offensive line, and now they just lost their starting center. So my defensive matchup to watch is Vita Vea versus Jarrett Patterson. Vita is an absolute game wrecker against everyone, but now he gets to go up against a backup center, and winning that matchup does a ton for the Bucs defense. If he gets the one-on-one, then he's going to be in Stroud's face all game long. If they double team him, well, now you're going to leave one-on-one opportunities for guys like Kalijah Kancey, Yaya Diaby, and Hassan Reddick. Then if V is moving the center at will like he tends to do against Pro Bowlers, then that's also going to create blitzing lanes for Servassier Dennis and Levante David from the linebacker spot, and Antoine Winfield Jr., who is one of the best blitzing safeties in the entire NFL. So the games are won and lost in the trenches. Vita is the perfect guy in this matchup to really disrupt Houston's offense and maybe be kind of that counter to what Houston's defense could potentially do to Tampa's offensive line.
Can I play a quick snippet from what DeMeco Ryans said a couple of days ago in regards to the Bucs defense?
Absolutely. Love to.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, another great defensive line, starting with Vita Vea. He's a force in the middle. He does a really nice job run stopping. Also, they drop him back in coverage a little bit too, so he's a very versatile player. But their front, it comes from Todd's philosophy. He's going to bring a lot of exotic pressures. There are going to be pressures from safeties, nickels, like everybody's coming, and they do a really good job of disguising it. So we just really have to do a great job as an offense when the picture changes. Like, how are we reacting and responding the proper way, communicating the proper way when the picture changes? That'll be a challenge for us this week.
That's from the head coach, man. It's going to be a challenge, right? And so when we look at key matchups, and I would love some more insight on this as well, but when we look at key matchups, it's absolutely having the knowledge of what Todd Bowles' defense in Tampa traditionally does, and understanding like this is not necessarily just a checkers match. This is a chess match. Todd Bowles is going to want to take away and continue to have CJ Stroud on his slump and make him look bad. So how can the Houston Texans combat that? From a perspective, you've been covering this team for a long time now. When Todd Bowles does get to dialing up this pressure, what has it taken away from a quarterback, or what has it taken away from an offense?
It's completely handicapped opposing offenses. When Todd is in his bag, when he is at his best, take a look at when they've matched up against the Eagles in recent years. Even just last year, an unstoppable Eagles offense got absolutely obliterated by the Bucs because Todd was able to do whatever he wants to do. He's so good at disguising. It's something I mentioned on my last episode that I'll mention here because it's something that Texans fans are going to want to watch for. There will be times that he looks like he is bringing everybody, and all of a sudden Hassan Reddick is going to drop back in coverage. Their top edge rusher. He'll drop back in coverage, and then all of a sudden he'll bring Jacob Parrish as a slot blitz. and completely blindside the quarterback. So the way he maneuvers these guys and the way he uses his quote unquote chess pieces, that's why he brings in so many different players that are so versatile. They have 5 different players that can play both safety positions, plus nickel corner, plus outside corner. And he allows those guys to move all over the place. So it takes away what you think you see. It takes away what you think you know. And these running lanes, these passing lanes, they close before you even realize that they were never open to begin with.
And on the flip side, I look at what DeMeco Ryans does well, right? Like now, the secondary for Houston struggled in week 1. Eyes were not disciplined, which allowed for players to kind of get behind them a little bit. And we look at one of the touchdown scores to the tight ends for the Rams. The safety on that play completely looking the opposite way. Undisciplined eyes led to a touchdown. But for the most part, this defense can create pressure from a 4-man front. They like throwing a lot of nickel. But as we have seen DeMeco Ryans get more and more comfortable as a head coach, specifically in 2024 and a little bit in week 1, he has a player, though he isn't the greatest in coverage. Jalen Petrie will shoot out there like a hot ball out of a cannon, right? And then those linebackers. And so how has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers been able to handle pressure to keep drives alive?
I think it's a combination of you have one of the best pre-snap quarterbacks in the NFL at identifying what he's seeing. Now, DeMeco Ryans is fantastic at disguising what the quarterback thinks he's seeing. That's why I'm so excited for this game, is because it's rare anymore to have such great defensive minds as head coaches. So these two teams are 2 of the very few in the NFL that haven't gone with the offensive head coach model. But you have 2 running backs in Bucky Irving and Rachaad White that are really, really good at pass coverage. They're really good at picking up the blitz. Bucky is light years ahead of where he was last year, and they're going to run a lot of pony packages where both guys are in at the same time. You have really solid blocking tight ends. Kieft is, essentially always a blocking tight end. Payne Durham can do it. Cade Otton can do it. And then you have wide receivers that are not afraid to get their nose dirty. So you have all these guys that are ready and willing to lay a block towards anybody that's blitzing towards them, that they are able to buy Baker an extra half second. And you combine that with Baker's ability to escape sacks, to buy himself time with his legs, and to get those pre-snap reads. It's the perfect combination when you're going up against a team that is so good at getting into the backfield and getting after the quarterback like Houston is.
Woo, let's get into those game predictions. This will be an exciting game. I think, like, Houston has to fight back in this game to not go down 0-2, like I mentioned. And I think the thing that I'm getting for you is, for this team, okay, was week 1 a fluke to what our goal actually is? Can we kind of overcome some of our issues? And then you got Todd Bowles, who he's going to throw everything at you in the kitchen sink, but you never know which way it's coming. So we got to get into our game predictions on the opposite side of this crossover edition of Locked On Texans and Locked On Bucs. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Right now, the last time I checked the FanDuel over-under for this game, it was Houston favored by 2.5. So 3 points. I'm going to have to talk about that one, James. FanDuel, listen, it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same game parlay, even jumping in as the live action unfolds. It makes every game exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your favorite fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little bit more excitement and energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel. To get started, that's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you for making Locked On Bucs and Locked On Texans, your first listen of the day. The NFL season is finally here. So for your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Roland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. James, we got two hungry teams, all right? Two teams in their respective divisions. Two teams in their division, ironically, NFC South, AFC South. Across the league, those two divisions are regarded as the worst leagues, worst divisions in the league between AFC and NFC. But this is a team that has some firepower with some star name players on there, right? You got Mike Evans, who's a surefire Hall of Famer. You got Baker Mayfield, who's done a very good job of revamping his career. In Houston, Nico Collins, who's coming up. CJ Stroud. Those guys have to score a touchdown. Give me your game prediction.
It's so tough. It really is, because like I mentioned, Houston has won the last 5 matchups. They're 5-1 against the Bucs all time. Tampa has started 2-0 every year for the last. They've done it the last 4 years. They're looking for a 5th consecutive 2-0 start to the season. So when I take a look at what the Bucs need to do to win this game, offensively, you got to get into a groove much sooner than you did last week against Atlanta. Defensively, you have to eliminate the running game entirely. The Bucs started the game last week. They had back-to-back 3-and-outs. Baker was off on some throws. He left 2 wide open touchdowns out there. There was no rhythm or continuity early in the game. It's going to be really hard to beat the Texans on the road in prime time if you get off to that kind of start. Houston's defense is outstanding. They gave the Rams, outside of Nakua, absolute fits last week. So Bucky's going to have a tough time trying to run the ball behind this offensive line against Houston's defensive front. The pressures that they're going to bring are going to make long developing plays nearly impossible. So you have to get off to a quick start by using Egbuka and Otten and Evans in the short passing game. Get some easy completions and really start to get into a little bit of a rhythm. Defensively, the Bucs held Bijan Robinson to 24 yards on 12 attempts. Right. They held the Falcons to below 70 yards as a team running the ball. So that has to be the focus. If you can take Chubb and Agunbowale out of it early, then the defense can start to bring that pressure that we talked about, bring those blitzes from all over the field and keep Stroud from setting his feet and looking for Nico or Higgins or whoever else down the field. Speed up that internal clock to bait him into mistakes or bad passes. An early sack or 2 would be really nice. But, if you eliminate the running game, then Todd can get into his bag a little bit sooner and allow that pass rush to really take over. This is going to be a really, really nerve-wracking game for the two fan bases. I'm going to have to take – something's got to give. I'm going to take the Bucs in this one. I feel like the offense is going to be able to do just enough to escape this one with a really, really close win.
If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense does just enough, then I'm going to leave that game thinking to myself, the offense for Houston let the team down again.
Okay.
And I look at some of the numbers. Bucky Irvin, 2.6 yards per carry. If you take away the scramble, great job by Baker Mayfield, by the way, but if you take away his 39 yards, you guys are in that'll be 18 carries for about 60 yards on the day. Right. And I think that's something that plays into the Houston Texans' favor. They did a very good job of containing one of the better premier running backs in the league in Kyren Williams. So they have to do that, right? 1 sack was given up by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you know what? Given the offensive line shuffles, that is something that I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans and the coaches staff probably hang their hat on, saying, hey, we did a very good job doing that. But Atlanta ain't Houston. They don't got no Will Anderson or Danielle Hunter over there, and I've said that before. So for the Houston Texans, they have to make sure that Houston ain't the only team consistently facing second and third and long. Put the Tampa Bay offense in some compromising situations to where they kind of have to stretch the field on some of those passing plays. And then you got your guys back deep who can make plays on the ball. Maybe you get a couple of interceptions, or you just consistently get after the quarterback to help give this team a short field to work with. The offense isn't trusted right now to go 80 yards and to go get a score. If they go 80 yards right now, the feel is they're going to come away with 3. And that's just how it's been. They have to score points, and I think the defense is going to have to put the offense in situations to where it's easier to get down there to the end zone. All of that being said, there is no trust for me right now in the Houston Texans offense. I don't think Tampa is going to come in here and blow the stadium off, but until they prove it and show it, I can't buy into it, James. I'm going to have to go Tampa 17-13 Monday Night Football.
Man, I was really torn. I don't like to give my score predictions until my very final preview, and I'll let Texans fans know before they blow me up in the comment section. I reserve the right to change my mind. Let's get through some practices. We're recording this before either team has even had a practice. We don't have the injury reports or anything.
Right.
So obviously, things can change throughout the week. I just feel like if both defenses are going to be able to get after these quarterbacks and both defenses are really going to control this game, which offense do I feel has enough weapons to make that one big play?
It's Tampa.
And I keep coming back to that Egbuka Petrie matchup. And I feel like that's where, Egbuka made me look like a genius in the crossover last week. My key matchup was Egbuka versus Mike Hughes. I hope he makes it 2 weeks in a row, but I'm excited for this game, John. I want
to add something to it because, and I mentioned this on an earlier show this week, because Todd Bowles will bring that pressure. And because DeMeco Ryans knows this, Nick Caley has the best reference right now as his head coach. And because of that, okay, coach, when we see this type of front, what's the expectation? Okay, this is the expectation. I have to make sure that, for one, my offense is at the line of scrimmage with a good enough amount of time to make checks and audibles. And then we have plays that we can check into to beat the pressure. Bijan Robinson went crazy out of the backfield. 6 catches for 100 yards, of course, the longer 50. This is a perfect opportunity to not only get the running backs involved in the screen game or just dumping it out where they get some opportunity to create some yak yards, but also a player that I really like out of Iowa State, Jalen Noel, as well. This game can go either way. But right now, the Texans have to win this game for me to say, the next time it's a game that can go either way, I'm rolling with them. So that's just where I stand right now, James.
Yep. I 100% understand.
Can you let our listeners know where they can find all of your amazing work before we close out today's show?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs, and then, of course, on Locked On Bucs 5 days a week on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
You guys can follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Bucs fans, come on over in the YouTube comments. Talk as much crap as you want to. We got some Texan fans that's going to swarm back at you. But until next time, Bucs fans, Texan fans, let's have a great game Monday night. Prime time is going to be one that hopefully we'll leave away saying we're proud of. Peace.